Hello and welcome to the Private Property Farming Show. My name is Mbali Nwoko and today we're out in Tarleton, West Rand, here to visit Eric Mauwane, owner of Onewa Farms. We get to learn about his operation as he's quite well known for being a pepper farmer and has recently explored chili production with the famous Carolina Reaper, which is known to be the most chilliest or hottest chili in the world. Let's get a deep dive into Eric's operation, why he started farming, and what his future aspirations are for Onewa Farms. Please don't forget to subscribe to the Farming Show and feel free to suggest any guests that you want to see on this show right here, brought to you by Private Property. Well, let's get to know Eric. Hi Eric, how are you doing?
All right, then you're welcome, Mbali.
Thank you. You know, coming here always feels like home because you're actually the first person that got me into farming,
Exactly,
from our conversation 6 years ago.
Yep.
But it's nice to be on the other side and ask you questions for once about your operations. But I must say, Eric, you know, I think you've completely grown from where we last saw each other or met each other in the early years of your farming career. And I know, probably a lot of people don't know this, but I know you actually wanted to become a piggery farmer.
That's correct.
So tell us about wanting to venture into farming, choosing piggery, but now landing up to be known as a pepper and chili farmer.
I'll tell you something, Mbali. I grew up in Bapong, just outside of Brits, so we used to farm back home. Even when I moved to varsity and moved into a corporate world, all I wanted to do was to farm. And I left corporate in 2012 and went to Pietermaritzburg to go and study piggery management. All I've always wanted to do was to become a pig farmer, inspired by Ntate Bogadzu and Ausana Polsa, as you know that.
Yes.
So, and that's where the journey of farming began.
Okay, so you started renting a small plot. I remember it was the deer. Is that
we
correct?
actually bought the deer farm. So I actually started farming in Tarleton from Ntate Bogadzu's farm, and then bought my first farm in Didier, 2-hectare farm from Anna Posa, and that's where it all started.
Yeah.
But the farm was a pig farm. It was a 2-hectare pig farm, and that's all I wanted to do, was to become a successful pig farmer.
Yeah, a lot of people want to venture into farming, but the most common question that they ask is, how do I find land? So how did you find the land in Didier before you started your operations?
So I left corporate world in 2012, and all I wanted to do was to do farming. Yeah. So I went to Bainsfield Training Academy in Pietermaritzburg in 2013. Between 2013 and 2015, all I did was knock on different doors. All I wanted to do was to get an opportunity to volunteer on other people's farm. Yeah. And I ended up on Ausi Anna's farm and volunteered there for about a month. And then she gave me an offer to buy her farm. And that's exactly what I did, bought my first farm.
Right, and had you saved up before when you had to buy the farm, or did you guys come to a sort of rent-to-own agreement? Because again, finding land is a challenge for a lot of people, and also the capital
access to
buy
finance.
that land.
And I'll tell you what I did. So when an opportunity came to go and study piggery management, I took that opportunity. Sabo paid for that, to study that. I couldn't get access to funding. And all I did was I started a research company to raise enough capital to be able to buy my own farm. It took me about 2 years to raise enough capital to buy my own farm. All financial institutions closed doors on us. So, and that was actually a self-funded farm.
Yeah, and how did you navigate your way into the entrepreneurship world, especially now going into agri? You know, you started piggery management. In that piggery management were the courses where it told you how to, deal with finances accordingly, procuring the pigs, and also finding business and marketing your business. So how was that journey? Now you've bought the property, you want to start your pigs, but you landed farming cabbage.
Yes, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you one of the biggest challenges I faced was feed for pigs was way too expensive. 70% of my cost went into feed. I couldn't raise enough capital to feed the pigs. And then I planted spinach and cabbage on the side of the pig houses to raise enough capital to buy feed for the pigs.
Okay.
And I fell in love with vegetables.
Yeah.
And I became a vegetable farmer by default. And since then, I forgot about pigs and I started.
And what did you do with the limited space that you had then? Because now you're saying you fell in love with the vegetables,
Yep.
but that farm was actually built for a
pigs.
piggery production.
I'll tell you what I did. So as soon as I planted my first cabbages and spinach and a little bit of pepper, I realized that the space was too small for the goals and the plans that I had for myself at that point in time. And what I then did, I started looking for land to rent or land to buy. And I actually ended up on this farm. I remember I was at Pinocchio, volunteered. I used to work at Pinocchio, volunteering. And one of the workers at Pinocchio told me, oh, there's a farm down the road that is up for sale. I came to this current farm, put an offer, and I would say the rest is history. I bought this farm in 2017.
Yeah, I'm picking up something unique about your story.
Yep.
A lot of it has to do with volunteering.
Yes.
For a farmer who's watching, an aspirant farmer, or someone who really wants to grow maybe in a different commodity but in farming, how important is volunteering in the agri-industry?
I'll tell you, there's two very important things that I always to preach to a lot of people. Get a right mentorship and volunteer. People think, from the pictures that they get to see of us, they think it's all cause, it's easier, and it's actually not easier. But the road becomes easier if you partner with the right mentors, but also volunteers. If you want to be a tomato farmer, go into a tomato farm, volunteer and see how they operate. And then, only then, can you then start your operation. The other thing is I always advise people is, do not buy first, start by volunteer. You volunteer and then rent the land. And you're starting to save a lot of costs if you do that. Yeah.
And a lot of people are asking farmers to volunteer at their farms, but we know that, a lot of the farms are high production or intensive operations.
Yep.
So what would you say to those that say, but Eric, I've been trying and I'm not getting the right mentor, nor am I getting opportunities to volunteer, but I definitely want to farm. What type of advice would you give that individual?
I'll tell you, there's one of the key things I always say to people: do not give up.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of doors that I've knocked on and that were closed, and there's that one door that you don't even know where it is. It's going to open for you. Don't give up, but keep on knocking. But make sure that you surround yourself with the right people, farmers, people that are not farming by phone. We're talking of real farmers, people with it doesn't have to be a bigger operation, but it must be people that are directly involved in the farming operation.
Yeah, and so having moved away from piggery, farming your spinach and your cabbage, what are some of the learnings that you got to pick up throughout that journey?
I'll tell you one of the biggest mistakes I actually did. When I started planting, I didn't even know where to sell my produce. And that is one of the biggest mistakes we make as farmers, is we plant and then we look for the market when the produce is ready. Actually, one of the lessons was I should have looked for the market first and then start planting that particular crop that was probably in demand at that time. So that's one of the things that I've actually learned. And that actually took me to get to a stage where I'm now doing peppers, because I then started moving from, your general basic commodities to move into the high value crops, and that's where we are. Yeah.
So now we're in Tarleton,
yes,
right? And you stress the importance of having a mentor.
Yes.
Could you say you still have those mentors in your life today, shaping your agricultural career?
I'll tell you what I did. So 2017, moved into this farm. October 2017, tornado cleaned out this whole farm. Lost the entire operation. All the greenhouses, shade nets, they were all gone. 2018, I couldn't even get back into production. Vincent and Vito, those are the owners of Rugane Farms. Vincent saw the operation, and I went into his farm, and then I actually knocked on his door, and I said I'd like to have a conversation with him. And actually, he volunteered to say, I'm going to mentor you. And I still have both the owners of Rugane, still shaping this journey that I'm actually traveling.
Wow, Eric, it sounds like you've been through a lot.
It's been a lot.
Learning various milestones along the way. But I'm super excited to take a deep dive on this current Onewa farm.
Great.
Because I'm seeing lots of tunnels, different structures, and different crops as well that you planted. So we're quite eager to learn about your operations, how you've able to secure the markets, and also grow your farm at export level.
That's correct. So I'm ready and able to take you on the journey of Onewa Farms, Mbali.
Happiness. Thank you so much, Eric.
All right.
Wow, I just love Eric's energy. You know, it's always refreshing to hear a story from the farmer themselves. Talk about their journey, how they started farming, how they came about to farm the different commodities that they farm. I mean, Eric wanted to become a piggery farmer, but today he's a well-known pepper farmer. So it goes to show that in business, not everything is cast in stone. You might have an idea, but you might land up at a very, very different picture than you'd thought of initially. And I think it's such an important thing that he mentioned in our conversation today about working the lands by yourself, getting to understand the business, farming by yourself, through volunteering, through finding mentors who have walked the path in the agri-industry. Please join me on the next episode as we get to explore Eric's operations, get to see the peppers, the chilies that he's farming, and discuss more about his export market. Thank you for joining me, and this was the Farming Show by Private Property.